This is the Comedy Kiosk, podcast by Mondae and Munoz. Please welcome Mondae and Munoz.
Welcome to the Comedy Kiosk, where we discuss news, opinions, and, well, stuff about comedy. I'm David Munoz.
And my name is Igor Mondae.
And today we're going to be discussing censorship and comedy. All right, so the person who actually wanted to discuss this was Igor. So, Igor, why the hell are we discussing this?
Yeah, well, as we always announce that we discuss news in this podcast, but we haven't for a while, There is currently an ongoing kind of news headline topic here in the Russian media in Moscow about about a comedian being prosecuted because of his jokes. So I just thought...
What a shame.
Yeah, and that was today's episode. It is a shame, and thank you so much for listening to us. I wanted to start this topic and discuss basically censorship and other things. What can you joke about?
Yeah.
Are there any taboos in comedy? Is there something that you shouldn't joke about?
No.
Who can tell you this? Who can basically censor you? Mom?
Mum's the only one. If Mum says don't say that joke, you're like, oh, damn it. All right, fine.
Well, to be fair, if I was 100% sure that my parents will never hear any of my jokes, my material could be quite different. There is some kind of level of self-censorship to that, because I do
Have your parents listened to your material?
I'm not sure my parents are aware of me being a stand-up comedian.
You haven't come out yet?
I haven't come out yet officially.
Jesus Christ, man! My parents, well, my mum knows. So it's like I've even seen her watching my material, because when I was Skyping, because I live in Australia, so I was Skyping my nephew, and she was in the background on a computer, literally watching me doing stand up on my YouTube channel, and it was really weird to watch her reacting. And then afterwards, I talked to her about it.
I mean, definitely, I would not invite them to my shows. My sister has been, and of course, like friends and stuff, but parents and some kind of, aunts, uncles, whatever like this. I don't think they're my target audience anyways.
Yeah.
But but definitely, if I was 100% sure that... So, because, you have material that, it's, let's say, TV ready. Like quite clean, quite family friendly. Most of my stuff is like this. But then sometimes when we have shows in a basement with like 20 people.
That's every weekend.
Yeah, not every. I mean, like we've done other kinds of shows. I've done theaters in parks and universities and stuff. Yeah. But when it's a basement with 20 people, dark room, and everyone is drunk, there is material that I'm thinking like, oh, I could do that, like, saucy little joke I have. But
I like how you describe that. It's my saucy joke.
It's my saucy
I have a saucy little joke. You saucy little joke you. I'm going to use you tonight. I'm going to use you, and I'm going to slap you in everyone's faces. Yes, I am.
In this dark little basement.
Yes.
Yeah, but then I'm thinking like, what if someone records and puts that on YouTube? And like,
seeing you expose your saucy little joke. The shame, Igor, the shame.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't like, since I live in Moscow, my family lives, all my relatives,
grandma, I think. Yeah.
back in Croatia, and because it's in English, obviously, I don't think they would even bother translating. But anyways, like, I would die if someone showed my mom, like, if my aunt came and she said, what is your son doing on the internet talking about
saucy little jokes?
Saucy little jokes.
Slapping people in the face with it?
Yeah, and I'll be like, yeah, sorry, mom, I will never do that again.
So the answer is yes, your mom can censor you. That's the only one that really matters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, but it's some kind of form of self-censorship where you don't, like, there is stuff that I don't want other people to hear me talk about. That's why I don't talk about that stuff. Yeah. So do you think this is the first step and the only important step in, let's say, freedom of speech on stage, that you should manage yourself what you talk about and how you, basically, who you will offend, which topics you will cover? What do you think about this self-censorship?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is. It's just you at the end. The only thing is, you have to be willing to accept the consequences. Like, if you decide to do a saucy little joke, and it doesn't go well, or someone is offended by it for whatever reason, you have to own that. Now, how you deal with that then is also up to you. Do you change your material because you realize, oh, right, it is offensive, and I didn't mean it to be that. Like, my intention was not to be offensive with it, in which case you need to change it. On the other hand, if your point was, well, no, it is meant to be a bit offensive because I'm trying to make a point and there's a twist to it, then you have to say, okay, is it clear enough? Am I doing it well enough? Or not? In which case, if you're not, you need to fix it. If you are, then you can choose to ignore that person. It's your choice. And you can say, no, sorry, you're the one that's misinterpreting, or you're the one, yes, you can be offended. That's totally fine to be offended. Many comedians have made this statement. It's okay to be offended, but it's the comedian's choice whether they willing to do something about it or not. And then they have to accept the consequences. Like when you hear about comedians going, oh, I've been cancelled, or, they're cancelling this comedian and they're griping about they can't do their material anymore. Well, it's like, well, maybe you need to update your material, or you can continue, but you have to accept the fact that a lot of people are not going to want to watch you. If you're willing to be fine with that, then keep doing it.
Yeah, I
Go
think
nuts.
the first filter that your jokes will go through is you.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember, if we talk about, again, kind of friends and family, when I just started doing stand-up, I was not sure even how my friends will react to this.
Yeah.
So first, I think few shows, I haven't even told anyone, and I haven't invited my friends to come and see me, support me or anything. Then when I was more confident in my 5 minutes, 10 minutes or something like this, I started inviting some friends. And then once I remember we had because back in the day we had 2 open mics, Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah.
And one was like a clean open mic and one was like a blue open mic. And that was the thing. Like, it's not only that it was, for some reason, people didn't get it as, okay, here I shouldn't censor my material. They got it as, here I should be as dirty as possible.
Yeah.
I don't know why they got this idea, but anyways, I had this 5 minutes. I don't think it was super dirty, but it was a little bit. I basically, my introduction to this set is, I have 10 jokes today. Each of them will be progressively more and more dirty.
Saucy.
Yeah, dark, let's say.
Slutty.
Yeah, saucy. And after this, I came to my friends and I was like, what do you think? Was that too much? And one of my friends said it was funny.
Yeah.
And I said, that's not what I said, but I said, was it too much? And she said it was funny.
So she wasn't willing to say anything else. She was just like, it was funny. That's it. You should be satisfied with that. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
Stop bugging me.
No. She answered my question. I just didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what do you mean? I know it was funny. I heard people laugh, but do you think I went too far? And she's like, it was funny.
So the choice is yours.
If it wasn't funny, if you were just a guy on stage talking disgusting shit, then it wouldn't be okay.
Yeah.
You were a guy on stage, you were a guy on a stand-up show being funny, which means it's okay. There is no too much, right? But so it only comes down to what kind of comic you want to be. If you want to be like a rude kind of insult comic, you want to be like a misogynistic, old-timey, 80s kind of style guy comic, or you want to be a clean, I don't know, Catholic act, right? It's up to you, but you then you take responsibility for your material.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's my whole point. Responsibility. You got to take responsibility for the consequences and actions and the way it's perceived. I've had 2 cases where there was one where I had a Tolstoy bit, and I was trying to, the way I was doing it, it was getting laughs. It was funny. I was getting laughs from it. But one girl came up to me after the show and she said, it seemed a little sexist, this part. She goes, I know you were just making a joke. She goes, no. And it was funny, but it did come across as a bit sexist sort of thing. Like you were celebrating the sexism. Like you were celebrating the fact that Tolstoy could shag all of his servants. And I went, oh. Because that was not my intention, right? And I thought, okay, I'm not presenting something well enough. I need to change this. Because that was me realizing, okay, that's not what I intended. It's the way it's coming across. It's still funny, but it's not the funny I want. So my ownership is on me. I have to change this, right? And I started thinking of different ways that I could present it so that it would come across as pointing out that the way he's doing it was unfair. Kind of making it a bit clearer that I'm not celebrating the fact he could do this, but I am pointing out that, in those days, guys could do whatever they wanted because he was the owner of the land, and pretty much his servants was his harem, and he was a dick. He was an asshole. But in those days, it is what it is. The saying, it's good to be the king sort of thing, right? So there was that instance where the ownership was then on me to change it because I wanted to, because I was like, no, that's my material. I need to change it. The other one was a bit where I have that Richard joke where I get hit on by the gay guy. And I had another person come up to me after the show, and a female comedian, and she said, in the beginning, you come across as homophobic. Like the beginning is a bit homophobic. She goes, I like the whole joke and the end, and the ending is good. And she goes, but it's not homophobic by the end. I said, yeah, that's the point. The point is that I am nervous. I'm trying to deal with a gay guy hitting on me, and I'm trying to be okay with it. But because of culture society, I'm flubbering the whole damn thing. I'm trying to be cool about it. I'm trying to let the guy know it's okay, but I'm screwing it up in a way, or at least I think I'm screwing. And by the end, it's a much ado about nothing, right? And the whole point is, it is basically me just getting over myself, or getting over what society has told me is a social stigma or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's crap. And now I'm going, no, I'm actually succeeding. That is the whole point of the joke, is you're supposed to look at beginning me of that joke and go, what an idiot. Like, get over yourself. It's not that big a deal, even though I know it's not a big deal. Well, but that's what I mean. There was two different circumstances. One where I thought, no, I have to change it. Good feedback. Thank you. And the other one where I went, no, you're the one who's misinterpreting it. I'm not actually misogyny. If you actually read into it,
that's the other level. So once you've like self-censored and you go on that stage with the jokes you want to go on that stage with, right? Then there is audience who will, and especially nowadays, living in this kind of cancel culture where there is a bunch of like
I hate that
social justice warriors fighting for things that they like. Okay. Like who this person that approached you about, was it the gay man?
No.
It was a straight woman.
No, it was a lesbian woman.
Okay, fair. A gay person, at least a gay person. But many times I would hear people do jokes about that, and people would come up, not about that in particular, not about your joke about picking up a gay guy in a bar. Yeah. But I mean, let's talk about sexuality, talk about something like porn. Yeah. I've heard people come up to our comics at our shows after the show and being like, oh, you know what? You shouldn't talk about that publicly. It's not a nice topic. I don't like to hear about it.
Yeah.
I'll leave. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like something is not a valid reason for this not to exist. It's just a valid reason for you to remove yourself from that. It's people going on YouTube, watching 30-minute bit and then writing in the comments, I didn't like this at all. Yeah. Why did you watch? Turn it off. But I don't like this idea that people complain about stuff that doesn't concern them. You know what I mean? Like people, and they always complain about some kind of right cause. Like you can't joke about people being fat. You can't joke about people being different colors of skin. You can't joke about people being different sexual orientation. But if I say like, oh, you know what? I'm short. No one will be like, shut up. It's offensive to short people. No one's going to protect short people. You know what I mean? And especially because, okay, I am short, so I can talk about it. What if I talked about tall people? Is that offensive? You know what I mean? So
no, because you're punching up.
Fair. So the idea is, I remember we had a show and there was a very experienced comic doing a solo show in our club. And there was a girl who came up to me after the show and said, I really enjoy this. I very appreciate the stuff you do here and everything. But basically he had a bit, and not to spoil other comics bits, he had a bit where he talks about, so we're in Moscow, right? And the audience was like 80% Russian, where he talks about, he starts the joke with like, I hate Russia. No, not I hate Russia. I'm sorry. He says Russia is shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he basically explains why it's not. And in comparison to where he's from and with some other like global kind of politics, global geography, basically well-known facts, that it's not. But that's like just the starting, the shock factor. Yeah.
He starts with the shock factor to make everyone go, excuse me, what? And then he expands and plays.
And we did have a comic, that's why I kind of mixed them up. We did have a comic who had a bit like, I hate Russia, right? And people were coming to me and to some other organizers after the show, like, this is unacceptable. I don't want to hear this. Why do you live this then? Or here then, leave. Why would you say something like this? It's very disrespectful. It's very rude to a country where that like now feeds you and gives you a job and gives you this and that. You know what I mean? But why are you, as comics like Ricky Gervais would say, offense is not given, it's taken. You can only get offended if you take it personally. If you decide to fight for this cause. If you take it as a joke, then it's a joke. But why would you even take personally something that's completely not about you? Like, I would listen to all the
But
comments.
for some people, patriotism and nationalism, the country is them, they are the country.
But
They take
okay,
it personally.
Fine, but sexual orientation, color of skin, weight, this kind of stuff, roles,
hang on,
gender
so
roles.
what you're saying is people who take offense on behalf of other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like this. And in general, this kind of, cancel culture that you can't talk. And Ricky Gervais had a bit about it in his latest special that, I don't know, he mentioned something about Caitlyn Jenner and then got like basically a shitstorm of comments and backlash on how you can't talk about her as him, how you can't talk about her when she was him and stuff like this. It's like, I can talk about whatever I want. You know what I mean? And that's how that's how society works. I say something, you get offended, you get over it, we move on.
Well, it was like that Richard bit. I also know for a fact that a couple of other times now, I've had people come up to me after the show, and a couple of times it's been like a gag or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I love that bit." They're like, that is so hilarious. And it's like, I've been the Richard in that circumstance, like as in, I know what you mean, because I was the one who was talking with the guy. You could see he was getting nervous, and she goes, and I felt sorry for the poor dear, was the way they were saying it. Like, and they were like, it's so funny to hear it from like your perspective, you're the nervous one. And I was like, all right, okay, cool, yeah. And we had like a bit of a conversation. So overall, like they were getting, like they understood the actual intention behind it was that, no, you're not actually being an asshole, but you're nervous because it's an unfamiliar situation. But by the end of it, you're fine with it. Actually, the joke is I'm a little too fine with it.
That's why I think like people who take offense for other people, it's basically they misunderstood the joke or misunderstood the point, because I've heard here, for example, there was a comic there was a German couple in the audience, and the comic was crowd working and mentioned a lot of like World War II, Nazi, Jew references. And these people didn't seem uncomfortable, but in general, the audience did. And 2-3 people after the show again came up to him and came up to me and said, like you were very rude to those people, like mentioning something that happened 70 years ago, blah, blah. But then I go to Berlin to a show, and 8 out of 10 comics talk about this kind of stuff, and whole Berlin laughs.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the problem is, I think it's okay to, in a way, it's not okay to be offended on behalf of someone else necessarily, but, it's okay if you think, oh, shit, this could be bad for someone else. But in that case, I think it's also the wording. It's not like you shouldn't do this. It's like you might want to consider, like you might want to talk to someone from this community and check that it's okay with them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that I could get. Like, if you're doing some material, like, if I had someone come up to me who was, straight about my Richard material, because I think it might come across like, have you talked to anyone in the community? I remember I did have a thing about India, about Indian gods and whatever, and I checked with our friend Arun before I went to perform it. At one point, I was like, okay, Arun, I've got this joke. Do you think it's offensive? Like, you're my first point of contact. And then I'm like, I asked a couple of his friends as well, all Indians, and they were like, no, that's fine. That's fine. They were like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I'm like, are you sure? I checked with them because in a way I was like, okay, because my whole point is I don't want to be offended. I'm not making fun of it. I hope they don't see it that way.
That's the point. Because I think Jimmy Carr was talking about, again, how he got a lot of backlash for joking about rape and Ricky Gervais for joking about weight or like Nazis or anything like sex changes and Caitlyn Jenner and things like this. And
added to the list of Ricky Gervais stuff.
Yeah, so and they say you can't joke about rape. You can't joke about, I don't know, sexuality. No, I think there is a difference that people misunderstand. You can't make fun of rape. You can't take it as something that's not important, not horrible, not dangerous, not like, poison in our society. You can't make fun of it. You can't take a victim of rape and be like, ha ha, you got raped. You can't make fun of it, but you can joke about it. It's a thing that exists. It's
it's how you also deal with it. Like some people, probably the victim themselves might even make a joke, which you might be going, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. But hey, if that's what you need to say to kind of feel better about yourself or to kind of start dealing with it, great. Like, it is a coping mechanism as well.
Yeah. So I think there is this distinction that people don't understand. You can joke, in my opinion, you can joke about anything.
Yeah.
You can't make fun of people, like especially victims of such some horrible things, and you can't make fun of the event or the context, the circumstance itself, that it happens and that it's horrible that it still happens. You can't approve of this, right? But, I don't think that if I go on stage and if I say, ha ha, gay people, or like, ha ha, Nazis, right? A joke, that there will be someone in the audience who thinks, wait, is he telling me to become a Nazi? I'm not...
Oh, that's cool.
I'm not spreading like a doctrine. I'm not like, I'm just making a joke.
That's for the manifesto.
I'm saving that for my prison days when I'll write that book finally. But it's...
No free time.
No. So I think that people are confusing these two concepts. So what can you joke about? You can joke about whatever you want. But there are some stuff you can't make fun of. Because it's very offensive and it's basically hurtful. You can't be hurtful.
It's a dick thing to do. It's just
it's a dick thing to do. But I mean, that's why I think that people who get offensive by the usage of some words, some topics, some even kind of news or whatever happens, some horrible accident. There are people who like Pete Davidson, who jokes about his dad dying in 9/11. 9/11 happened. It's horrible that it happened, but it happened. His dad just happened to be there, and he died in that accident. He can joke about that. He can't make fun of other people who lost other people or make fun of the whole, but he can joke about a thing that's directly related to him. Like Daniel Sloss talks about the death of his sister in one of his specials, which is also a heavy and kind of sad and so on story. But why couldn't you joke about that? If he wants to, it's his right.
It's just whether you're good at it or not. Your material, then it comes down.
Okay, let's say we went through 2 levels. So you are the first filter. You should decide within yourself what kind of stuff you want to talk about and what do you want to be on stage, what kind of comic, and then tailor your material towards that. Then the second thing is the audience in general, public, because not only the audience in that room, someone can record, and this is what happens as well. Someone can record your bit, put it on Instagram out of context. You're like 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, and you will see, because if they catch that beginning of your bit where you said that some people comment that you seem a little bit homophobic, and that's it. No one hears the end and the conclusion and the funny part. Then, of course, so we're dealing with not only the audience, but general public. But that's the second filter. But then neither of these things, nowadays general public can cancel you and let's say like ruin your career or whatever. But you can't get in actual...
See, this is where I disagree with the term. That's why I hate when the people say, cancel. They're canceling. It's like, no, he's just losing. People aren't buying his tickets. That's the difference. Like, it's not canceling. If people just don't come to your show because they don't like you, because you did something or you said something wrong, then they just don't like your material. Now, the fact that people aren't coming to your show because of something taken out of context, that's what sucks. And in that case, those people are idiots for just seeing a 2-second snippet and just basing a whole judgment on that. That's the problem there. I think the problem then is about media and how information is given and spread around. That so many things are taken out of context that people make the wrong assumption and go, oh, that person's a racist. Oh, that person said something sexist. That person did. And it's like, no. Look at the whole bit. You cannot take that out of context. But they do. People do that.
That's what people do. And what people do as well is they confuse words and actions. You know what I mean? Because I think Bill Cosby, who drugged people to molest them or whatever, allegedly, he was released.
A little more than molest. Oh, no, on a technicality. So he's still charged, convicted.
Oh, okay, fine. So anyways, he did that. That's a horrible thing to do. Kevin Spacey, who touched little boys. Harvey Weinstein, who used women.
Hang on, he didn't touch the little boys.
What did he do?
He touched a 17-year-old wannabe actor or something like that. Well, maybe 18. But anyway, he kind of used his position apparently.
Okay, well,
whatever.
Okay, sorry, Kevin Spacey, for misjudging your character.
Don't take it out of context, man.
Then like Harvey Weinstein, who molested a bunch of women, even Louis C.K., who again used position of power, even though nothing stopped those women for leaving. But whatever, like he wasn't forcing them into it. But okay, he used his influence over them, whatever. But these people did something, right?
Yeah.
So if I go on stage and I talk about rape, that doesn't make me a rapist. So I didn't do anything bad.
Right.
I talked about something that's bad. I even joked about something that's bad or laughed at something that's bad.
Yeah.
But I'm not a rapist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I want you
Or
to become a rapist.
sympathizer.
Yeah, I'm not promoting rape.
Yeah, no.
It's humor. It's comedy. Nothing. Like people ask me about my simplest jokes. I would say I was in a supermarket today and I asked, can I buy a nuclear rocket? And they told me no, right? And after the show, people would come up to me and say, did you really ask for a nuclear rocket in a supermarket? I'm like, no, you idiot. It's a joke. I made it up.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't see why people get offended at completely fictional things. But that's not the biggest problem, people getting offended at stuff. The biggest problem is when actual law, authorities, and government are mixed into this whole story and people end up being prosecuted because of something they've said, right?
Yeah. Well, this is where, okay, actually, I'm going to, if you don't mind, I would actually say the interim step. There's sort of an interim step where it's not quite the government, but it's getting in that direction, but it's not quite there. And it's kind of in between the cancel culture thing that we were talking about the audience and about an authority figure. So in America, there's an organization called NACA, right? NACA, which is the National Association of College, what is it called? Arts or something. Anyway, no, it's something else. I want to say entertainment, but that's an E. But it's something like that. Activities, sorry. National Association of College Activities, because it's all different kinds of activities. Anyway, the point is, a lot of comedians in the past have done college tours. To do college tours, you need to apply with this board, right? They watch the shows, they choose the comedians, and each college has different representatives, which are made up of uni students, this little kind of like admin group or little committee. And they will watch all the performers, magicians, comedians, jugglers, beatboxers, musicians, bands, whatever, and they will take them. They'll watch them. They all perform like at a convention over a couple of days, like over a weekend. They sit there and watch all these shows and then decide if they want to book them for the next year, right? And then they give them dates. They say, are you willing to do these dates, blah, blah, blah. And the idea is it's fantastic money for the performers. It can be like over $1,000. Like there was one who he was charging 2.5 almost to do for one show per show. And if he can string together like 23 shows. So that guy is already making like
bank
$20,000, $40,000 something dollars. Like it's ridiculous. So that guy's making bank over the course of the year. He's got these shows and plus he does his normal gigs. Now, the thing is to get onto these shows, because of this whole diversity thing and inclusion, and we were saying before about, making fun of fat people, things like you cannot do that. You cannot make jokes that might offend anybody, all that sort of thing. You perform to their standard, right? So this guy who's getting paid the 2.5, he's very popular. He's very, well known in the college circuit. They love him. But the thing is, if you actually go to one of his club gigs, he's filthy as hell. He's really he's making rape jokes and stuff with those kind of, not rape jokes as such, but making jokes that involve these topics and about abortion and stuff like that. These jokes he never does at the college circuit because that's a different crowd. It'd be like doing the Christian circuit forever or doing the, any kind of circuit or maybe even doing the KKK circuit if such a thing were to exist. You obviously wouldn't make jokes that make fun of the white race if you were performing for the KKK, right? So I'm going with weird, absurd examples to kind of point out the point.
I get it, but then there is a little voice in the back of my head thinking, Google if there is a stand-up circuit for KKK clubs.
Yeah, white supremacy circuit. Anyway, so the point is though, but it is a form of censorship. It is definitely a form of censorship. And there's been cases where people have refused to perform for these organizations because you do have to sign for it, right? And if you break these contracts and all that sort of stuff. And there are cases of comedians who refuse to do it. And even people like Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld have in the recent past made comments at interviews saying there's no point in doing the college circuit because it's too PC. What do you think?
Well, I think, in
America, that is, of course.
There is audience for everything. There is a reason why they wouldn't let you on a, afternoon talk show on TV, and you would use all kinds of like filth, swear words, whatever. There is a reason. There is a reason why, for example, in Britain, right after 8 p.m., they're allowed a certain number of swear words, as far as I know, per show, like per 40 minutes or whatever it is, 30 minutes an episode of a show, anyway, like quiz show, panel show, whatever it is, TV show, right, series. They're allowed some kind of a quota of swear words or something like this. I mean, I don't think it's like a specifically, you can have 7, but you can't just replace every word in a program with, I don't know, asshole and just put that on, right? It has to have.
I could just picture someone's there with a stopwatch, they're counting them, and next to it's like, oh, we've got a problem. Why? Well, the part ass started in that first 40-minute mark, but the word hole ended up in 41, which is the new 40 minutes. So which side do we put it on? Do we put it in the first 40, in which case it's not allowed, or do we include it into the second 40, in which case it's allowed, but that last asshole over there we have to cut?
I think it's per show, not per exact like 40 minutes or per some kind of time period. But yeah, so I mean, there is a reason for that, and there is a reason why they don't want topics like rape or abortion or, I don't know, whatever it can be, like bashing homosexuality, weight, whatever it is, on such tours in uni. And I get that. It's about inclusion. It's about, some kind of sense of community, equality, everyone, no one should be picked out and stuff. But I don't think that's what comedy should be about, because I think comedy was always about differences, was always about observation, about pointing out facts, about pointing out things that happen and have happened and things like this. So I think pretending that there is no one in that room who is fat, you know what I mean? Just in case they get offended. Like, I mean, it's a means to an end. If you want to go do those kind of shows, earn money and get some kind of experience and maybe context is great. Yeah. But I think it comes from that first point of self-censorship. If you're such a comic, if you can do that, go for it. But if you are faking it for the sake of that check, then don't go for it and go find a dirty basement where you can perform your dirty jokes for 50 people, and that's great.
Or you could do both. I mean, like I said, this guy who's very well known on the college circuit, and he's got a good career outside of it. I mean, he's doing both. He just splits, it's like, one way you talk at home compared to how you talk at work, compared to how you talk to your friends in a pub. It's different personas that we all have. We all have them naturally. So just like being on stage is like your personality dialed up or down and, played with. The same thing with that, or you have different personalities. Yep. So you have one personality for your club sets, you have one personality for your college sets, you can have another set for your corporate gigs. You have another personality sort of thing. I think that I don't have a problem with that. And talking about like the fat thing, actually, that was something I read in this article where they were mentioning that a lot of people in the past, a lot of fat people, avoided going to comedy clubs. They didn't feel comfortable because they knew the moment they walked in there, someone on the stage, one of those comedians, is going to go for the cheap, easy laughs where they make fun of the fat guy or the fat girl and make fat jokes. And so there was like talk about them avoiding going to stand because they didn't feel like safe there.
I get that, but that's different. That's making fun. That's what we talked about. Picking out one person in the room and mentioning their weight is making fun. It's rude, obnoxious, and it should not be done. But talking about...
how do you deal with that, though?
Talking about weight, people being overweight, majority of, American population being overweight as a topic on a show. Yeah. So not making fun of this person, Jane Jameson, that sat in the front row, but talking about a thing that exists, right? Yeah. I think is not a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. My question now is, how do you deal with it, though, when someone does that? You know what I mean? In this case, it sounds like it's up to each club individually to kind of censor then their own comedians, which this is where you get the big thing, because this is where people start yelling cancel culture, because the club can go, look, mate, you were the host or whatever, or maybe one of the comedians, whichever, and it's like, look, we're not going to put you as a host next week, or we're not going to give you a set for the next 2 weeks. They say, why? It goes, because you made fun of those fat people. And they could say, well, this is cancel culture, you can't make fun of people now, or you can't make fun. And it's like, well, no, if you were just discussing being fat and things and making jokes about, that's fine. But the fact is that you made fun of them, That part we can't allow. Now, this is where we get into the whole cancel culture debate that's happening these days. People kind of saying, well, that's being cancelled. But then if you don't, then the fat people are not going to feel comfortable coming to the gig. Or if it's gay jokes and then gay people or whatever, it's about that situation. So I'm saying, how do you...
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think no gay person, no black person, no overweight person was ever offended by someone talking about gay people, black people, overweight people. They're offended when you point them out and say, you're fat, you're gay. You know what I mean? So, I mean, even if not like you're gay, okay, I am, but like, haha, you're gay. That's wrong. You know what I mean? When you like when you make fun of who they are. But that should not even.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So, okay, for example, like using the fat person as an example, like if the person on stage is like, "Oh wow, looks like you ate the 5 Whoppers and the double-sized, cherry pie at the end of the, just before the show," making fun of the fact that it looks like they've eaten the whole of McDonald's. Like, geez, is there even a McDonald's standing on the corner anymore?
But this is being rude to people. This is not same as joking about something, But what happens when actual kind of authorities and laws and government police steps into all of this, and basically when we don't have a chance to not be worried, will someone not like it and so on, but it's straight up illegal to make a joke. What do you think about that?
What happens? You go to jail.
Not what happens, but do you think it should be illegal to make a joke? Any joke about anything?
Hell no, of course not. No. I think it's ridiculous. I think it shows that any government that kind of sets up these rules that says you cannot make a joke about whatever is thin-skinned or is way too coddling of its people. Now, on the other hand, if you, for example, you are a politician and you're seeing someone doing, let's say, anti-Semitic jokes, all right? Making lots of anti-Semitic, and it's very popular with the crowd, and he's making money and he's like getting people coming to his show, then you got to start wondering, okay, why do a lot of people like this stuff? What's going on with our country? Because comedy is just a reflection of what's happening, if you know what I mean. It's actually a good barometer to kind of get an idea of what people want to talk about, what are the topics. If anything, comedy should be kind of observed for this reason. Like I said before, it's a barometer. So I think when people are being censored, when the governments are censoring comedians, it's because they're afraid that what they're saying is what people are really thinking, and they're trying to suppress these thoughts. So it's actively an act of suppression in that case. Anything should be able to be joked about. You deal with the repercussions organically.
Well, I think, okay, not, and this is, I think, a matter of kind of what you can say publicly. Not basically joke about, but what you can say with a microphone on a stage and so on. And many countries have laws about these kind of things. So basically, things you are allowed to say publicly, and so it wouldn't be like slander or whatever. And we had this situation a couple of years back here in Russia where a comedian was mentioning the president in one of his jokes, and someone reported this to the police. Police showed up with a warrant to the stand-up club where he performed and asked for his name and the contract and everything. So, of course, the stand-up club in the beginning was like...
We don't know who this person is. What are you talking about?
Dismissive, right? But then, of course, when they threatened them with some other measures and repercussions, they have pointed them in the direction of this comic. And this comic fled the country. Basically refusing to be imprisoned or even questioned about a joke he made during the show. So he fled the country for about a year or something. And then when his lawyers sorted it all out and when the dust settled, he came back. There was another incident.
With more fame and more followers.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And while he was away, he was doing tours and shows in other countries based off of that.
Thank you, government censorship.
Yeah. Then there is another guy who very recently, and this is how we started this, I mentioned that there is an ongoing story right now, who also recently made a joke about Russian people. So one of his jokes, and it's, I mean, I saw it, I saw the clip, it's just a joke. Right? It's like saying German people are this because British people are that. You know, it's nothing really hateful. It's nothing really. But a lot of, since he's not, he's so as you, I don't know how well how familiar you are with this, but maybe some of our listeners are not. So in Russia, like there is a citizenship, right? Nationality Russian, but there is also a race. Russian. So you can be different kinds of Russians, like basically owning the passport.
Yeah.
But there is also a race like Slavic Russians, right?
Yeah, Buryat and
yeah, there is some like Asian Russians, Muslim Russians. There is different kind of
Chechen
Russians. Yeah,
Caucasian.
but there is also like Slavic Russians.
Yeah.
So this comedian, he's not Slavic Russian, and he was making jokes about the Slavic Russians, right?
Right, yeah.
So basically, then people kind of took first to internet with saying like you can't say such stuff, blah blah blah, offending him personally. He was attacked twice in the center of Moscow, where like groups of people physically attacked him, punched him, beat him, and stuff like this. And then someone reported it to the police as well, and he started getting prosecuted by the authorities again for insulting the nation on his show, which it's definitely not what he was doing. I mean, like the clip is available online and stuff, and he recorded a couple of like interviews and stuff about that as well.
What is it?
What's the actual bit?
Yeah,
I can't, like I watched it maybe 2 weeks ago, the actual bit. I can't remember what it is, but it's definitely not something like, it's not offensive.
Yeah.
It's at best, it's controversial, but it's not offensive. Yeah. And it's definitely not offensive to, he's definitely not a hater of Russian people. Like he's he has friends, he has colleagues, he has, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't come from a bad place as well. So what about this? What about situations where the government actually takes things in their hands and people can end up in prison just for something they've said?
It's ridiculous. I think, well, like I said before, it's just, okay. One thing is a lot of these laws come in because the way they word it is about you have to respect the government, you have to respect religion, you have to respect whatever, right? This is the guise it's under. I've always been of the opinion you earn respect, you don't just give it freely, you have to earn it. And the idea is if people really do respect you, they wouldn't make fun of you, or they'd make fun of you out of love, just in a nice way,
roast
sort of
you.
thing. Yeah, whatever. But the whole point is that when you start mandating respect by saying you can't joke about it, you make even quips or anything like that, or funny, then that means that, well, if you have to force it, then it's not real. You know what I mean? And this is the thing, and this nationalism and stuff, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. It's the same thing as what happened in India. There's a guy called Munoz Faruqi or something like that. He ended up spending 28, maybe even more days in jail because he didn't make a joke, but he had prepared a joke to be used in the set that night. Someone had overheard him preparing. He had prepared a joke that they said was offensive. He didn't end up performing that joke, but he still got busted because the guy who complained, who is the son of a BJP politician who is one of the right-wing factions in India, which is what Modi is part of, the current prime minister of India. So this guy, his son, one of these politicians' sons, preemptively put into the complaint to the police saying that he was a serial offender, so he was going to offend again this set, and just they preemptively arrested him, sort of thing. And the guy was seen and video recorded them, the whole argument and he's like, let me continue on. And they're like, no. And yeah, he ended up getting arrested and put in jail. And
so
it's
you can get prosecuted for thinking something.
Yeah, for having prepared, but never actually performed it.
Never even said it on stage, but considered saying something.
And that's the next level. That's where you're getting ridiculous. And it's the fact, like, for example, there's an interview with a guy called Jeff Shi, or Shi Laoban in China. That's his comedian name, I think. And they talk about how their comedy clubs in China, if it's big enough, like it's of an actual proper comedy venue or whatever, then if it's of a certain size, you have to register. And then you have to send in a whole transcript of all the jokes that are going to be said, and you can be rated at any moment and have your sets checked, or it can be recorded and then double checked to make sure you did do it as said, that what they authorized. If you're small enough, then you can get away with a lot more, but it has to be a small underground little venue like us.
I'm small. Can I get away with stuff in China?
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is, I agree with you 100% that this is mostly happening in countries where the government is afraid that people would spread some, I don't know, propaganda against them.
I don't think it's
any
even
kind of-
propaganda. I think they're just afraid of an opposing view or anyone not thinking they're afraid of losing control. They're afraid of losing power and control. And the way that, in their mind, the best way to hold on to that is by tightening an ever more aggressive grip.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I mean, I agree with your statement 100%. And I disagree 100% with government and police and whoever having any basically input in what you can say. As long as it's not hurtful to anyone in person, I think it should be allowed. And one final thing that I wanted to mention is the best example of how kind of under the microscope stand-up and in general comedy is at the moment, and people are just waiting for someone to slip and to, say something offensive and for him to be like scrutinized in all the media and, like crucified across the internet and stuff, is basically, I remember we had a roast battle and of course, there are some people who don't understand the format, who have not seen it on TV or somewhere. Maybe it's not such it's a format that I guess it's quite, I would say, American, right?
Oh, I do believe it did start in America. And it started in like the Friars Club and places like these little what used to be known as gentlemen's clubs and then became like kind of a trades club sort of thing, like a club for comedians or actors and performers and stuff. Another one for business people. These
so
clubs.
You would pick a person that you would roast, and it would be a person you know well. It would be friends and family with that person. And then it spread into stand-up and into these kind of battles, one-on-one, through rap, even kind of similar to rap battles, where you kind of try
but with comedy and insult.
Yeah, you try to make fun of
comedy.
the other person and things like this, right?
Yeah.
So in America, it's called roast battles. In Britain, it's called conversation. I presume.
Banter. I believe it's banter.
Where you try to just offend the other person. Not offend even. It's teasing.
Yeah.
And it's also not hurtful, it's also not mean or rude or anything. So, but we had a show, roast battle, here in Moscow. And I remember after the show, an audience member came up to me as the host of that show and said, "Do you think it's okay if a guy on stage calls a girl on stage a slut or something, that it was a part of the burn, right? I don't know, like, your mouth so big, you sucked so many dicks." It was a part of the burn. Yeah. But this girl took offense in the name of the participant who volunteered, saw these jokes before the performance, approved them all.
Well, one, they don't know that they've seen the jokes beforehand because they think it's all improvised, a lot of them.
Even if it was, you agreed to this is what the format is. This
and everyone's doing all different. It's like, have you heard all the other jokes? You do realize this is the exact same vein. She made her own jokes that were about insulting people. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were expecting all these words. Like, actually, we were kind of tame.
So, what I think basically the conclusion is, again, what I've said earlier, I think you can make jokes about anything, but you can't make fun of some certain things that hurt people or offend people or are rude to those specific people or the group of people and so on. And I think it shouldn't be managed by anyone, by some kind of university association, by the club, by the government. It should be managed by you, because you as a performer, as an entertainer, again, you have a responsibility to make people enjoy, not cringe, to make people laugh, not cry. And that's, I think, the first filter. The self-censorship should be the only one that exists. If someone can do it themselves, then I'm sorry, you will not sell. That's it, you know?
I agree. My conclusion about all of this is, it should start and end with your own self-censorship sort of thing. Like, that's where it comes down to. It's down to the performer to do what they think is best. But the performer has to be willing to face the consequences, good or bad. Like, you can't then bitch and moan if you don't sell tickets and things like that. Well, obviously, the way you're doing it, people don't like it. Now, it's up to you whether you decide, no, I'm going to continue and slowly build up a very niche fan base who will appreciate what I do, or I'm going to change my format or the way I do things, or my perspective or whatever, and, try to appeal to a larger... It's your choice at the end. I think it all comes down to your choice, but you have to face the consequences. I also think that depending on different scenarios, you do it in different ways. You have different personas, different jokes, different things. And that the moment that the government tries to take away that power from you and tries to tell you what to say or do, then that's unacceptable.
Yeah. So if you are going to go with some saucy little jokes,
Yes.
man up and take responsibility for
Yeah.
them. Or I don't want to get cancelled. Person up and take responsibility for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take ownership of that saucy little joke. And yeah, that's it.
All right. So
Own your saucy little jokes, people. Own your saucy little jokes. Go
own your
on.
saucy little
Own it.
jokes. Let us know.
Yeah, play with it.
Let us
Love
know
it.
what you think, what should be joked about and what not. Are there some definitely taboo topics that no one should ever mention? What has place in comedy and stand-up and what doesn't? We would be happy to see your suggestions, ideas in the comments. And we have also set up our Patreon if you want to donate, since we have recently upgraded our tech, our equipment.
Yeah.
And you can also give us feedback on that. How does it? We are experimenting with sound, with mastering, with production. And if you think, if you want to support what we're doing, if you enjoy this podcast, you are very welcome to donate on Patreon. We would be glad to receive any kind of support. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Igor Mondae,
And I'm David Munoz.
and this was the Comedy Kiosk. Until next time, goodbye.
Ciao.